We are talking to Mets free agent outfield prospect Brandon McIlwain. What's going on, Brandon?
Hey, I appreciate you guys having me on.
Absolutely, my friend. Tell us, how are you and your family doing with this pandemic?
Yeah, we're doing what we can. I mean, we're trying to take it as a learning experience, as a time to kind of stop and improve ourselves as much as we can. So it's been good to spend a lot of time with the family and really get back to I guess a lot of things that we used to do as a family that I haven't been able to do over the last couple of years.
What is it like being signed by a team like the New York Mets? I know we've interviewed a lot of Yankee prospects. The Mets organization, Brodie Van Wagenen. Brodie has had two really, really good drafts in the last 2 years. I mean, when he was brought to the organization, I was kind of skeptical about bringing in an agent to run an organization and never having the experience. But bringing you in, I read a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit about you, and tell us when you heard and you got the call from the New York Mets. What was it like, and what did your family say when you told them you were just signed by the New York Mets?
Oh man, it was such a blessing to hear from us. I was hearing from a lot of different teams. Some of them were more small market teams, but then to hear from a team in New York, it was such an amazing environment, like with a new staff with Brodie in there now, and my family and I were so excited. It was something that it's a dream for me. It was something that a team that I've watched since I was little, a team that I've been like, wow, I would love to play on that field. And to be a part of an organization like that in a city like that is as exciting as it can be. It's such a blessing to have the opportunity to do it and to live out my dream to be a professional baseball player.
Which player on both the Mets farm system and the current Major League roster are you most looking forward to playing with, and why?
So in the farm system, I would say it is Carlos Cortez. He's actually a guy who was on my team in South Carolina when I spent a couple of years there, University of South Carolina, and then he was also I had known him a little bit prior to that too. So he's an awesome guy. He's a great player, and I'm excited to get back on the field with him. And in the professional level, maybe to get a chance to at some point practice against Syndergaard or to hit next to someone like Michael Conforto. Those would be such amazing experiences that I can only look forward to.
As you guys know, we are talking to Mets free agent outfield prospect Brandon McIlwain. Now, Brandon, you look at the outfield with the New York Mets, and this has been one of their weaknesses, really, for the last, 15 years. You're talking about Jason Bay, giving him the big contract that they gave him years and years ago. But now you look at the team, you have Michael Conforto, you have Brandon Nimmo. They're trying to rediscover what their outfield could be. Yoenis Cespedes is probably on his way out. I don't know if the Mets are going to give him another contract unless Stevie Cohen, if he does wind up owning the team in the very near future, decides to pay him. You have guys like you, a young kid that could develop into the farm system and really become a big part of this organization. When you look at the Mets and you look at the growth of a player like you, what is your strengths and what is your weaknesses?
I would say my strengths as a player are definitely my athletic ability. I think I can play any position in the outfield. Hopefully, I'll end up being in center field. I can hit for power and hit for contact, and I like to take bases. I like to steal, I like to run, and I like to use my speed as a weapon as well. But in the Mets organization, I'm so excited for the opportunity just to play all the time, to use the resources that they have and the amazing facilities that they have, because I'm someone who would also lead to my weaknesses that I haven't always been full-time in baseball. Mm-hmm. I haven't had as many at-bats as a lot of the people who are getting drafted and signed this year, and the opportunity to do that in the Mets organization is only going to speed up my improvement even more.
For those listening, the reason for that is a very unique one. Brandon, also, you did play football in college, both at South Carolina, and you were the starting quarterback in 2018 for Cal. So playing both of those sports, what was the moment that told you to commit to baseball over committing to football long term?
There were a few, honestly. It has a lot to do with just the everyday lifestyle of baseball and the relationships that I got to make in baseball and being out on the field, just able to play, able to run, able to just track down balls is something that's extremely exciting for me and I love to do. But I think one was when I was at UC Berkeley and we played against LSU. It was one of the most amazing series that I've gotten to play, and then to see how a 3-game series works, where you play against the same team and you see different pitches, but you're scheming against different guys and trying to beat them in every way. But in that series, they had 14,000 fans at the games. I think every game went down to the wire, and the experience that I have with my team of fighting for 9 innings and trying to do everything we can, clawing scratch to win, it gives me chills now. And it was one of the moments where I realized that baseball and the competitive nature of baseball and the way that the game goes and every inning can be something new. It's really what I love to do, and it's a sport that I love now.
We are talking to Mets free agent outfield prospect Brandon McIlwain. Now, Brandon, Kyler Murray was a quarterback that was a great baseball player. He was a top draft pick by the Oakland Athletics. He got a big contract. He got $5 million up front, telling the Oakland Athletics that he was going to, after college, come and play baseball. Then all of a sudden, he went to Oklahoma. He became a top prospect, won the Heisman Trophy, and then look where he is now. He was the number one pick in the draft, and he paid back the Oakland Athletics, and now he's the starting quarterback of the Arizona Cardinals. When you look at your career as a college quarterback, and you look at your baseball career now that you got you signed with the Mets, I guess you could say you were drafted because there was only 5 rounds of the draft. So you probably would have been drafted if there was a full draft, 20-round draft like it usually is. You probably would have been drafted. But when you look at your career now, do you take a step back and say, you know what, if baseball doesn't work out, maybe I can go and play professional football? Or do you think baseball is where you want to be, baseball is where you want to stay, and that's where you want to go?
Wow, that is a pretty interesting thought. I had never even thought about going back to playing football, because I think baseball is my dream. It's where I want to go. It's what I want to do. I want to devote everything I can to baseball, because I saw how it was playing both and dividing that time. And as soon as I got on the baseball field, I realized that was where I wanted to spend all my time. And I think Kyler Murray realized that in a way too. And in his decisions, he picked the sport that he loved. He picked which one he wanted to devote his life to and to play as a professional. So I think for me, it's definitely, once I got to this level, this is where my dream began. This is where I want to devote everything to baseball. Put everything I can into it, work on my craft, and be a big leaguer.
Brandon, you played both positions. You're a starting quarterback for Cal, Division I team. You've seen a lot of college quarterbacks, professional quarterbacks, a.k.a. Goff, getting drafted as the number 1 pick. So we've seen Cal quarterbacks get drafted. And then you play the position, the outfield, and you played baseball, Division I baseball. When you look at both positions, what position really was the hardest, and what drove you the most to play that position?
There might not be many positions that are comparable to quarterback to me, where maybe the pitcher being on the bump and being the guy out there who every pitch that you throw, you start off the at bat, you start off the inning, you start off everything. But as a quarterback, it was, you start the play, and every person on the team is looking for a way to get the ball from you. And there's so many decisions that go into it. The defense is scheming against you to try to sack you if it's a pass, or to figure out what you're trying to do if you're making a decision or changing the play. And I think that position was probably the most difficult, just because of everything that went into it. And driving me to do it was basically the love to work, to be able to figure out little things and to be able to decipher defenses and and be able to put everything that I am into a position. And that's something I have found in quarterback, but now I've also found it in center field. Center field is like you do anything you can not to let that ball drop. You know, you want to do everything you can to help your pitcher out who's up there working that hard. So I think it kind of gave me a little more respect for what the pitchers do and how hard they're working up there from playing quarterback, and it makes me want to go even harder as a center fielder.
Back to the dual athlete type thing. Could you see that kind of thing come back, whether it is Kyler Murray or someone else, like you saw in the 1980s and the 1990s with guys like Bo Jackson,
Deion Sanders,
guys like that? Could you see that kind of thing come back, whether it's Kyler Murray or someone else?
Yeah, I definitely do. There are a lot of people out there who are really good athletes, and honestly, there's some that pick a sport and might be doing it too early and don't get to see their full potential. And there's a lot to learn from playing these sports, and it's definitely a grind. There's a lot that has to go into it, and for the people who really want to do it and have the ability to, I definitely think it could come back. So a lot of it comes with the coaches that you have, and I was blessed enough to have great coaches who allow me to do both. But I definitely think it's something that could come back, especially if baseball, if more people continue to get into baseball and continue to play and see how amazing the sport is. Baseball and football works out pretty well together, being in that fall and the spring.